is it a good time to be alive, my fellow peasants? How are you all doing? So, we've got the Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm such a cheesy ass motherfucker. The Kingdom Hearts 3 has landed. The trailer has come. Final Fantasy VII Remake next. And best believe it better come at E3. So to build up the hype, get us into that feels for FF7 Remake, I've got an article here, 15 things that need to be cut from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now this is by Scott Baird at Screen Rant. I've covered some of his articles in the past, and before I go into either criticising or agreeing with his picks, I'm just going to say, Scott Baird, you've got some balls on you, man. 15 things that could be cut from the original. You are a very brave man. This is going to be a way to trigger fans. It's probably going to trigger me, but I'm going to stay calm. So kicking it off, starting off at number 15, and I'm already triggered, Genesis. So he goes on to say how the compilation expanded the universe, yada yada yada, but by far the worst thing, the worst, is a character named Genesis Rhapsodos. Okay, I'm going to just straight up say, in case you can't already tell, I like Genesis. I love his character, I like his characterization, I want him to read me a bedtime story, that beautiful poetic voice of his. But Genesis is a total Mary Sue character. His appearance is based on a Japanese rock star named Gekt, whom game designer Tetsuya Nomura is a big fan of. So this is true. This is why Genesis is the most important character in the Final Fantasy VII world, and was even brought back to life by a god, because he is just that great. Because he is just that great. And then he goes on to say, but the Final Fantasy VII Remake needs to scour this awful character from the series for good. Okay. Okay, Scott, you hurt me there, man, but I'm gonna respect we have a difference of opinion that Genesis is not a shit character. But I actually do agree with Scott in the fact that I don't think he should appear for the 7 Remake. I'm gonna agree with him there. I see no reason for Genesis to come back. I feel like it would be taking limelight from Sephiroth if they did. Well, I mean, I say that, but at the same time, a huge part of why Sephiroth was a great character but could have been better was his backstory, was, you know, having him relatable. And that's kind of where Crisis Core came in. And Sephiroth, for me, he went up so much as a villain after Crisis Core. So I kind of feel like in the remake, should they not maybe explore his backstory? And we got 3 games. 3 times the amount that the original was. 3 times the possibility. Am I the only one who thinks that some of that time should be towards fleshing out Sephiroth's character more? Going into his backstory, showing that he was a real person with real feelings. That he had friends and he wasn't always just a total nutcase. So, and I mean, that involves Genesis, but it is what it is. So, I'm kind of flipped on that. But number 14, the optional status of Yuffie and Vincent. Now, this is a great one, and I agree with it. I actually see no reason why they should be optional. I mean, it's not like they could even do it optional. The fact that cutscenes, you know, it was so obvious in the original game that Yuffie and Vincent were optional because they were just absent from the final cutscenes. They were absent from the cinematics, and it was just kind of, I mean, yeah, it was 1997, and it was okay, but you know they can't do that for this. So I will literally bet my mortgage that they're not going to be optional. And indeed, I don't want them to be. Although what I would like them to do is to have the same scene where Yuffie robs your ass and then you have multiple choices. And I don't know, maybe troll us into thinking we haven't got Yuffie for a bit. I feel like the 7 Remake should be really light-hearted a lot of time. Maybe troll us that we haven't managed to get Yuffie, get the player triggered. You get what I'm saying, Nomura? Just go crazy with it, man. Number 13, Wu-Tai. Just Wu-Tai. I mean, just cut Wu-Tai altogether. What? No, Scott. No. That is not the way. Let me just read his logic here before I tear his ass up. Tiny Bronco, for the first time, Yuffie will steal all of your party's materia. Oh man, I love Yuffie. This will start a quest that involves reclaiming your materia, then Don Corneo. I mean, I love all these scenes. The lack of material throughout the quest is a form of artificial difficulty that slows everything down and forces you to rely on items. Wu-Tai is the most frustrating quest in the game. If it is going to come back for the remake, then it needs to be altered in order to make it less annoying. I like the annoying. I got to say, guys, I love it when games troll, and there's going to be some other points that tie into this, but I feel like 1997 games, the 90s games, and the PS1 era games, they did do stupid, frustrating, aggravating things. I mean, they would sometimes have 4-hour-long dungeons without save points placed in reasonable areas, so you would just wipe and then have to go back 4 hours, and it would have bosses that were just intentionally unfair, and it would do crazy, quirky things. I love that. And it seems to me like we had so much patience. I don't know if it's just because, I don't know, the internet wasn't much of a thing. Or, I mean, it was a thing, but you didn't really moan on the internet about things in games. You just got on with it. If a game threw you a shitty unfair curveball or trolled your ass, you just got on with it. You just shrugged it off. And I never used to get angry at things like that. I feel like people get more angry by things like that. And perfect example is FF15. How in chapter 13 you had the ring and it was an artificial slowdown that made you feel a bit helpless. I like that. I like flip ups like that. But I know I might be alone on that. So I don't know, maybe make it less aggravating to get your materia nicked. But I mean, it just wouldn't be Yuffie if she didn't piss you off no end and nick your materia. So we'll agree to disagree, Mr. Scott. Number 12, the Pleasant Planet. Now in this one he's saying that the planet of FF7 should be less pleasant to reflect that Shinra are stealing the planet's Mako, its life force, and it was reflected well in Midgar when sort of you had the dead zone to show Shinra are destroying the planet. And that Midgar is a living testament to the damage that Shinra is doing to the environment, but that the next location you visit after Midgar is the town Calm, which shows almost no effects of pollution. Almost all of the other towns in the game are generic fantasy locations and look nothing like Midgar. Have we played different games? I mean, for a start, I'll just say Calm. Even Calm, while it is a peaceful, tranquil, beautiful little city, it's not to say that Calm doesn't have a dark history. Calm is actually an artificial town. It got destroyed in Calm fire bombings, which Shinra were testing nukes to fire over to the Wutai. It bombed the city, and they basically made a fake one. So Calm is a fake city. So I wouldn't say that Calm doesn't at all show Shinra interference. In fact, Calm is quite a macabre city. But I know you have to play other games to know that story. But I mean, let's go outside of Calm. So, I mean, what other locations are you talking about, Scott? Are you talking about Junon, the rough militarized city that does look pretty run down, especially if you go below the plate where the water is polluted? An entire fishing community who no longer have fish? Are you talking about Nibelheim, the place that is taken over by very creepy clones? Are you perhaps talking about Mount Coral or Coral Town, the place that is basically a dump, a slum? So it is a gross exaggeration to say that only Midgar shows the decline of the planet. Many other places do. I mean, even Rocket Town has its slanted rocket and the people there have been affected. But I get your point, Scott. I think you might have just forgot a couple of scenes where, like the water pollution. Could the remake go one step further to show the decline of the planet and the suffering? Yeah, I think so. But I don't think it's really fair to say that the original didn't do that and it was lame on the original's behalf or an oversight, because they couldn't really show polluted water or so much the really detail of the grass or maybe the solar weather effects. I don't know, maybe when they do the weather effects and stuff they can show stuff like that, but I think that there was enough representation to say that the original FF7 wasn't just a pleasant planet all in all. Shit looked pretty run down and macabre to me. Number 11, Schizo. I'm going to call him Schizo. Now, I remember this guy. This was some three-headed dragon. Now, I don't remember anything distinct about this fight. It was quite an average fight, quite a fun fight. But the reason why Scott says it should be cut completely from the original is simply because it's one of the worst, laziest bosses. It just appears on Gaia's cliff. It has no story reason, no relation to any of the other factions in the game, and it has never been referred to after it's beaten. It only exists because the developers wanted to put a boss at the end of the Gaia's cliffs. So what? I mean, I don't much see the point behind this. Does every single boss have to intricately be tied into the story and have some sort of allegiance to a faction? What if Schizo is just some three-headed beast that just lives on the Gaia's cliff and has a bit of Mako fallout from the northern crater and gone a bit mutated? What I'm saying, guys, is I don't get this. I don't get why you can't just have random bosses. And in fact, I would say that with the remake being across 3 episodes, we're going to have a lot more bosses that aren't necessarily hugely rated. Hugely. I can barely speak. I think there's going to be loads of bosses that aren't necessarily related to the story. And the reason I say that is because when I've actually broken down each disc of the original, which I think people have this sort of misconception that that's how they're going to do the 3 installments based on how it was in the disc, they really can't do it like that, because each game is going to have to be self-contained to a certain degree. Now what I mean by that is each game's going to have an opening. It's going to have a sufficient amount of story. It's going to have an ending and, I don't know, some final bosses at the end we can fight optionally. It's going to have to follow a game format that the original didn't. And indeed it didn't. In the original game, I worked it out, the first disc had 50% of the story. The second had 35%, and the final disc only had 15% story. Now, is that going to work in an episodic? And again, episodic is a terrible word. Even Katase said it's a terrible word. They're going to be full games. But even if we go to bosses, the first disc had 16 bosses, the second one had 8 bosses, and the last disc only had 4. 4 bosses. I expect they're going to have to bring in new bosses that weren't originally there. Perhaps some of them won't all be connected to the story. I mean, they certainly won't be connected to the original story, at least. So you might be in for a bumpy ride on that one, Scott, if Schizo really pissed you off that badly. But moving on. The Supernova animation. He wants the Supernova animation, possibly the most iconic. I mean, I get why he's saying it. Just skimming. Yep, he's saying it because it's too long and Sephiroth uses it multiple times. Now, I'm just going to say, that was amazing. That Supernova attack that Sephiroth uses blew my socks off when I was younger. And when I think about a remake, do I want to see that exact same Supernova animation in HD graphics with the beam and it goes through the planet, it turns it into a donut and completely destroys planets on the way through? Hell yeah, I want to see it. Now, maybe if Sephiroth doesn't use it multiple times, I mean, it's part of the nostalgia. I certainly don't want it to be any shorter, I'd say. I don't know, maybe use it less times. I'm just going to say, guys, Sephiroth Supernova is just fantasy exaggerated because, of course, I've done videos where we've talked about who's the most powerful villain, and I saw the top comment was obviously Sephiroth because he destroys an entire universe in his ultimate attack. It's hyper exaggerated, non-story related, special. A lot of the moves are like that. Sephiroth doesn't literally destroy the universe 3 or 4 times in one fight just to fight Cloud and the gang. You cannot literally include that in Sephiroth's skill set or achievements. You guys get one. Now I'm trying to say, Sephiroth fans, don't bullshit your way to try to say Sephiroth's the most powerful villain. He's powerful, but he's certainly not the most powerful. And I love the guy. But number 9, Hojo's Bizarre Adventure. Oh yes, I am. This is one thing I'm most looking forward to with Hojo. I want him to be full crazy. And he more or less says here, yes, do not show the bestiality scene. So one of the craziest things that Hojo did. And this was the moment where I went from, this is just your cliche crazy scientist in a video game. Many video games have them too. Whoa! Oh god damn! Hojo, you are cut above the rest. This guy is insane because he was trying to breed Aerith with Red. Red species, they live longer and they needed Aerith around longer to be able to get the powers of the Cetra. So they was going to breed I don't know what the hell would it have looked like. Some sort of Aerith with a tail. Aerith with a tail and ears. I don't know, would she have been the first Miqo'te? Yeah, this was what turned him crazy. Beyond anything even I could have imagined. And to say that you want it cut out, if you dull down some of his insanity, it's just not going to be the same. And I mean, where do we stop? If they dull that down because that's too... Whoa, are we going to then be dulling down other parts? FF7 was a bold game, I'm going to say. I understand that seeing that in remade glory and having voice actors is going to be really different, and perhaps it will make some people uncomfortable. I've never really thought about this, but if they actually did do the remake, I can imagine a lot of people are going to be made to feel uncomfortable with it. It's much harder to be made to feel uncomfortable when it's just the 3D 1997 blocks with the motionless faces and really low polygon resolution. Yeah, I don't know. I'm coming at this expecting them to dull some things down, dial it down a bit, but still keep it. What you're saying is to get rid of it completely. One of Hojo's craziest moments. I've got to disagree. Ms. Gots to disagree. God damn, it's hard with these lights. So let's go on to number 8 before I melt. The placement of the snowboarding minigame. Now, I get what you're saying here, Scott. Aerith dies, then your group goes off. You have a little bit of dialogue. But before you know it, you're skiboarding down the slopes. Or in my case, I wasn't snowboarding down. I was face grinding myself along the wall from top to bottom. Yeah, I really sucked at snowboarding. And what he's saying is it's so close to Aerith's death scene that it just comes as jarring. It sort of undoes the emotion of Aerith's scene. Now, I personally never felt that in the original. Although, to be fair to Scott, after I cried for an entire damn week and went into a comatose of sorrow, there was a huge break between me seeing Aerith's death and snowboarding. It was quite a substantial gap of mourning for me to go through. I suppose I wouldn't be adverse to what you're saying. Push it back a bit, let Aerith's death sit for a while longer. But, I mean, I think they probably did that in the original on purpose. After they super bummed us out, they then lifted us up from our depression. What you're more or less saying is you want the group to be more depressed for longer. I don't know, maybe throw in a couple of extra cutscenes. Maybe make the ribbons. Maybe there should be a scene where they make the ribbons and, they all carry one on them. Man, that'd be beautiful. Number 7. Totally remove the Chocobo breeding side quest. No. Oh, you cannot do that. Why would you even suggest that, Scott? Are you even a Final Fantasy VII fan? He says the most annoying side quest is the Chocobo breeding. No, I'm not even going to. I mean, he even suggests here, is it possible for Chocobo breeding to be fun? Man, you're going to trigger me. And he even suggests, as was proven with the excellent Chocobo hot and cold game in FF9, for the remake, Square Enix must know that all of the game secrets will be revealed online within 3 minutes. So they may as well make the remake version more fun. I mean, you don't have to go and read it. You don't have to read the guide. You can try to figure it out yourself. Possibly somehow figure out how to make a gold Chocobo through hundreds and hundreds of grueling hours of trying out different greens and combinations. Wasting countless days constantly getting a river Chocobo bred and not the one you wanted until eventually, you go on Game Facts. Read how to make a golden Chocobo. Okay, yeah, I understand you might have a bit of a point there, Scott. And at number 6, we have the Hidden Secret Cinematic. Now, he's referring to the one that you had to go back into the game afterwards. This was where you go down into the basement and you find Zack and you hear the noise in the nearby basement. And it basically shows what happened with Zack and Cloud. Really, really important scene that was hidden and quite a lot of obscurity in the original. Yes, I agree they should cut the method. And that's what he's saying. He's not saying they should cut it. He's saying that's so important, they need to show it. That's what I like to hear, Scott. That's some logical thinking, man. I think they should fully flesh out everything to do with Zack. Every scene that Zack was involved in. While I think it's important that they keep Zack a mystery in terms of the story narrative and how Cloud doesn't really know him, because that's a really significant part. Still keep a lot of his stuff mysterious, but there's no need to keep it that mysterious anymore. We all know who Zack is. We all absolutely adore this character. All of us. All of us. And I think we all want to see more Zack Fenn. Next we have number 5, Carry Armor, and this was a boss that did indeed trigger me. Well, it didn't trigger me. I kind of swore through the controller, laughed, enjoyed it. This is the boss where he'll pick up 2 of yours if you're not careful, and then just boot the last person's face in who's standing, just face mince them. And it'll cause a game over. Again, this ties into that whole thing of 90s games did things that were aggravating. I remember in FF6, I remember in FF4. I can name you a boss that just did things that were, you little shit! No! Why would you do that, Square Enix? That's so unfair. Or Squaresoft. And I like those. I laugh those off. Again, I feel like there's such little patience with gamers today, where things just aren't always necessarily in balance or the game does something. You know what I'm trying to say. I feel it was part of the charm of 90s game. And, a huge part of the remake that I said should capitalise is the nostalgia. Make us feel like we're going back and playing that game again, that one we fell in love with. And that comes with all its quirks, that comes with all its stupidity, all of its jokes. And that includes its totally arsehole bosses. If I got 2 of my characters pick up and a game over, I would just be awash with nostalgia. I would not rant or rave at that point. I'm getting chills thinking about it. There just seems to be such an obsession with pleasing and never annoying any player that they remove anything that's too difficult or too wild or too out there. Final Fantasy bosses throughout its history have done some mean things. But moving on, 4, the Hojo Beach Party. I mean, at this point, why don't you just say, let's cut Hojo out? So yeah, Hojo's there. He's got 3 sexy as fuck ladies. I mean, he had to have paid for them. What were those girls there for? I mean, they could not have been physically attracted to him. What did they want? I'm getting a sense of prostitute. I think Hojo was paying for them to be there. I mean, it had to be. And it was, I agree. This scene is so completely out of character. And it's almost funny. No, it was just straight up funny. The disturbed professor is acting out his own episode of Baywatch on the sand. It is. It's such a funny scene. He's just laying there on the sunbed with his lab coat. And yeah, he's drinking pina coladas. And then they have this bit of dialogue. And Cloud, he's going to kill him. But then Hojo's like, no, I don't want to kill him in front of all of these precious little children. Again, it's the quirk of Final Fantasy VII. It's the quirk of the game. It's the insanity of Hojo. Don't take these elements away. This is going to be something that divides people. I know not everyone's going to agree with me. A lot of people are going to agree with Scott. What side of the fence do you sit? Let me know in the comment section below. But that's how I feel. Number 3, the terrible ending. Okay, got the gist. So I kind of said this in one of my videos, so I'm not going to rinse on Scott for this at all. I kind of said the endings wasn't one of the strongest things. It was kind of like a swift resolution, a swift wrap up. And I think that part of the remake, this is why I say I don't think it should be like for like, is about exploring things at new angles, doing things the original couldn't. I don't see the point in building up to the same shock values that the original did, when it's not going to shock any of us. I feel like if they did that, it's going to be inevitable that people are going to say, oh, FF7 remake, it's still not as good as the original. Even if they did a like for like, people would still say it's not as good as the original, because the original shocked you when you wasn't expecting it. Now you're going to be expecting it. There's just no way that you're going to get the exact same amount of fresh emotion. Now, really, the only emotion you're going to get throughout most of this is nostalgia. I've said while that's powerful, I certainly don't think it can carry 3 titles for possibly 3 to 5 years. Nostalgia can't carry it alone. Nomura, he knows that. Guitar they know that. That's why I said they're going to try to do things different, flip up the script. Yeah, I've said this all before. Shock and surprise us, and throw things in to make it a really fresh experience for us. I think the ending includes that. He also says about Red 13 being alive 500 years after the events. And that scene has played out in Advent Children. And I think the reason why they showed that it's original to show that the planet did survive in the end. It was quite a profound ending, but he says because of what happens in Dirge of Cerberus and Advent Children, there's no need for the ending to be so unsatisfying as the original. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Red Scene was unsatisfying. I wouldn't say it was unsatisfying. I think they can do things different. So moving swiftly on, because I'm beginning to blabber and sweat and... Oh god, I'm so excited for this game. Number 2, the slap fight. No, Scott, no. I really wanted to find common ground with you on a lot of points, but Scott, I just can't, man. We must be so different. Because the slap fight, I swear, if in the remake, Tifa does not slap the shit out of Scarlet. If she does not slap that wench's face 360, I'm going to be so disappointed. Now, he kind of says here the reason for that. What sense does it make? Why is Tifa slapping when she can punch Emerald Weapon into goddamn oblivion? Yeah, I kind of get you there. I mean, I think a punch from Tifa would have killed Scarlet's ass, but it was just funny. It was just fun. It was just hilarious. Stop slapping me, you bitch. And Tifa smacks her back. I love this about 7. It seems to me like you want the remake just to drain the soul and personality and just make it another undescript game with no personality and identity. I think that this was part of why I said they should do Unreal Engine, rather than Luminous Engine. Because I was really scared that with 7 Remake they might try to go with ultra realism. And with ultra realism, things like, Red being in his sailor suit and some of these really crazy scenes, they'd look really weird in ultra realism. And I don't want that. And that's why Unreal Engine, with its semi-stylized look, I think it can get away with a lot more ridiculousness. But you're just asking them to remove the ridiculousness. And honestly, that's what I'm most excited about more than anything. And number 1. The number 1 most thing that should be removed from the remake is Kate Sith's Scottish accent. Oi, you've gone and triggered me St. Rotten now, laddie. Kate Sith is easily the worst part of the Final Fantasy VII original game. A mascot robot stands out like a sore thumb. Luckily, he's only mandatory for a few scenes before you can dump him out of the party forever. Advent Children urge Cerberus to make Kate Sith even more annoying by giving him a horrible Scottish accent. His brogue is about as convincing as a fat bastard's accent in the Austin Powers movie. Thankfully, Kate Sith doesn't talk much in Advent Children and urge Cerberus so the fans aren't tortured too much. The FFVII remake is going to feature voice acting for all of its scenes. Kate Sith. Even if Scott doesn't love you, even if half the people watching this video right now don't love you, you have a place in my heart, little buddy. I've never understood the hate for Kate Sith. Well, I mean, I understand it, and I suppose the Scottish accent, I really don't care if that comes or goes. Personally, from Advent Children, I actually heard a lot more complaints about Red 13's voice than I did Kate Sith. This is one of those things where people say Kate Sith is annoying, as if that's some fresh new criticism that none of us knew. No, we know. That's the point of Kate Sith. He is supposed to be annoying. They intentionally make him annoying. I mean, it's the same with Yuffie. She's supposed to be annoying. She's supposed to be a brat. She's supposed to get under your skin and piss you off and nick your materia. Yeah, I think, getting annoyed by characters is something that the fan base, they have such hostility towards annoying characters, or when the game developer is intentionally trying to annoy you, the player, with that character. It's very much intentional, and that's what they were aiming for. I think in a lot of what Kate Sith does, getting under your nose, seeing in the Golden Saucer where they keep trying to do the fortune and he's getting it wrong, and he's doing the dance, and it's really drawn out, and he takes like 3 times, and you're just like sat there for nearly 5 minutes watching him do it. Do you not think that they're purposely trying to make Kate Sith get under your skin? No, because he's annoying Cloud. And then parting that part of annoyance onto you. But that's it. That's the list. I think I disagree with most all of it. There's a couple of points on there I agree with. But what I will say is, looking at Scott's list, if Square Enix actually listened to that list, it probably would get a better reception. That's what pains me to say. Scott is probably right. If I think of gamers today, and I'm going to sound like that old arsehole, that old hipster. It's like, all gamers today, they don't have the patience. I think there's some sort of truth in that they don't have the same kind of tolerance for things when there's so much diversity of games. And games today, when people don't give a free pass to things like they used to. When we all used to just be in our bedroom, playing on just our controller, in front of our 18-inch screen, we used to just get on with it. We didn't used to take to the internet every time something was remotely annoying or aggravating, all crazy or weird or didn't quite make sense, and we couldn't all just scrutinize it and scream backwards into it. So I feel like if all the people who are going to play 7 Remake for the first time, let's think, guys, there's going to be millions of players who have never played FF7 original. This is going to be their first one. They're going to be thinking, right, what's this legendary game all about? This game that has populated every top 10 best games ever made list for the last 20 years. Yep, go below, say the game's overrated, say whatever you want. They're going to be coming out, right, what's this game about? And I feel like, yeah, if they did all of these points, there's going to be so much ammo for people just to fire a lot of shit about the remake. So maybe Scott's version is the safer version, but it's not my version. It's not the version I want. It would be extracting so much of the personality and character and the things I liked and the nuances and the crazy and insanity that, yeah, I just really hope they don't go for your list. So there it is, guys, 15 things that the remake shouldn't include, supposedly. And no matter what they decide to do, one thing I can guarantee is not everyone's going to be happy with it. That, and reading this, Scott's opinion to my opinion to the opinions I speak about, not everyone's going to be happy with this remake. I think that's something we have to come to accept. But there it is. Until the next video, until E3, this was the last video. This was the buckle up, get ready for it, guys. And I'm going to be live streaming this around the clock until the next video. Kubo!